Hey guys, welcome to another video here on the AviationPro channel. In this video I'd like to give you a review of REX Skyforce 3D, a brand new product by the Real Environment Extreme team. And I've got to be honest with you, at first I was a bit skeptical about this product. It just didn't seem from the screenshots and the videos that I already watched that this is really going to revolutionize the weather in Flight Simulator, specifically the Microsoft Flight Simulator FSX and FSX Steam Edition and Prepared. But after getting the product I'm a bit more convinced. So I'll tell you all about it and we'll take a look at some of the skies and the different skies the REX Skyforce 3D can produce. So let's take a look. So as I'm testing any product, I'm just gonna fly around and take a look at what the product looks like. I do this with sceneries but also with weather add-ons, and this is REX Skyforce 3D that you can see right here, using the REX weather engine that comes with it. Now clouds are of course really important aspects of flight simulation, and basically clouds are a huge collection of little water droplets, and if you would want to render these clouds so accurately, you would have to render each and every water droplet in the cloud in order to make this cloud look realistic. Now, in flight sim, it's hard to really render these clouds very accurately. Luckily, new technologies are coming up, but there are kind of different approaches to the way you generate clouds. And the approach that has been used in Microsoft Flight Simulator is kind of to use 2D textures in order to replicate a 3D cloud model. In another way, for example, in a product like TrueSky, you can really see that they generate their own clouds and really make it look like a 3D structure. But in Flight Simulator this is not possible. So what kind of the REX team has done is have found out new ways to replicate this 3D look by using real-world photos of clouds, and well, we'll just kind of take a look at how realistic it is and see what we can find. So the first thing you'll really notice when you're flying around is that the clouds do indeed look more 3D. You can see the cloud bases are a bit more flat, and then at the top, depending on the weather conditions though, the clouds look a lot more big. You can really see this kind of cauliflower look to the clouds, which is really nice. So what you see here is just pure prepared version 4 with pure REX Skyforce 3D, no after edits or PTA, things like that. I'm just gonna fly straight at this structure, kind of see what it looks like. And as you can see, although it looks nice from a distance, when you get closer, and especially when you fly through such a 3D cloud structure, it just doesn't look very realistic. And especially when you look sideways, you can really see that the clouds are turning towards you. But this is the limitation of Microsoft Flight Simulator, using these 2D textures to render the clouds. But from a distance it looks even better, and I'm on low settings here. I'm now going to switch to some higher settings. So I've now switched to some higher settings, to the highest resolution possible for the textures and the 3D clouds. And I'm also using Active Sky as a weather engine right here, and as you can see already there's a little bit more variety to the sky and the way the clouds looks. And you can also see that it doesn't matter which weather engine you use, you can still use the same technology that REX Skyforce 3D provides. When you go through the options, and we're going to take a look at that in a minute, you can just select which 3D cloud models you want to install, and there's also a separate option to sync the 3D cloud models and textures. And what this will do is, depending on the weather that your weather engine generates, whether it be the REX weather engine or the Active Sky weather engine, it will inject new 3D cloud models and textures, so you don't see the same 3D cloud model over and over again and the same texture. So that's a really nice feature. So again, you don't have to use the REX weather engine, it's perfectly compatible with Active Sky, as you can see here. So as you can see, when you look sideways, you can really see the textures turning, and that's basically because Microsoft Flight Simulator FSX and Prepared are just not really designed to look sideways. But if you just look straight ahead, which is something you would normally do during a flight, I think, the clouds look pretty nice, and you can really fly through these 3D structures. But as soon as you look sideways, you really see it's a 2D texture that is just facing you. It depends probably a little bit on which texture and model you're using. As you can see, we're now flying towards, you know, kind of a higher structure again. But, you know, it will just fade away. It does not really have this 3D feeling when you get closer by, but when you view it from a distance, as you have seen in a couple of shots right now, it does look pretty realistic. But as you can see, when you try to fly through it, it just kind of fades away. And, you know, this really needs a little bit more tinkering, I think. But yeah, you know, it's a limitation. But as you can see from a distance, it looks pretty nice. But as soon as you look sideways, you can see the rotating clouds, unfortunately. So I'm just going to do a little takeoff run here from the default airport of Prepar3D version 4. And as you can see, there are raining conditions right now. I'm using Active Sky as the weather engine. And as you can see from the bottom, the clouds just look very nice. A very nice overcast condition. And this is what the REX team has worked on as well, to make sure that you really get this distinction between the cloud base and the cloud top. So the bases kind of look flat, like it looks in the real world. And then the top of the clouds really look, you know, more... you know, we really have this more cauliflower look to it, which is really nice. So I'm just going to climb through the clouds and see what we'll encounter when we are clear. And as you can see, it looks pretty nice already. The overcast has also been worked on to make sure you just don't see any gaps in the cloud structure, which is really good. But if you're using Active Sky already, then this, you know, is also enhanced. But with REX, with REX Skyforce 3D, I already found that this works even better. And as you can see in the distance, we have some nice 3D cloud structures that just looks pretty good to me. So as you can see, we're now approaching another 3D cloud structure. You know, I have to be honest, you know, sometimes it just kind of looks like you're flying through a painting, you know, a landscape painting with clouds in the background, which is not very realistic, you know. For example, if you watch this footage of me taking off from Amsterdam towards Seattle aboard the Delta Airbus A330, you can really see that you're flying past the clouds, and you really can see this nice cauliflower structure, basically. But you know, in simulator, this just doesn't work that way. From a distance, again, it looks good, but once you get closer, it just doesn't look very realistic, unfortunately. But maybe this can be improved in the future. You never know. What I really like though, which is thanks to the REX model 3D modeling, which I didn't see before in the simulator, is that you can really see a storm approaching. Right now, this is real world weather using Active Sky again, and you can really see that there's this rolling cloud structure, which is really nice. You can really feel that you're flying towards or away from the storm. In certain conditions, some clouds seem to be popping through. I'm not sure if this can be fixed, if this is an Active Sky issue or a REX Skyforce issue. But again, you know, if you view it from a distance, especially, you know, it looks really good. You can really see this 3D structure. It definitely has more of a 3D feeling to it, and it adds more variety to the sky. Even if you're using Active Sky, this variety is very welcoming. Otherwise, you know, it gets a little bit boring. And with the high cirrus above, it just looks very realistic in my opinion. Even though when you get closer, you can really see it's 2D. From a distance, it looks very realistic in my opinion. So right here, I'm flying at the same location, but now I've enabled the REX weather engine, and as you can see, it portrays different weather. I'm not sure how accurate the REX weather engine is. I'm sure it's, you know, they're working on that, but in my opinion and my honest feeling is that the Active Sky weather engine is more accurate, and we'll see that in some later footage as well. But still, you know, if you're new to flight sim, and if you're looking for one integrated add-on with textures and a weather engine, then I think this weather engine is pretty good to use. So now I've just generated some default flight simulator weather. I've selected the building storms theme. And as you can see, REX Skyforce 3D running in the background with the 3D model syncing enabled, immediately renders some nice towering clouds, as you can see here. I've got to say the one on the right looks much better than the one here on the left, which looks a bit more grey and the lighting is not very realistic. But you can definitely see REX Skyforce 3D at work here, and also the clouds down below just have a much more 3D look to it, especially if you're flying high above these clouds. So when we're getting closer to the towering cloud right here, you can definitely see this big structure next to you, which is really nice. And although you can see the 2D textures, you really get the feeling of having this big cloud next to you, which I really like, and especially if you encounter such situation in a real-world weather situation, you're running in a weather engine like Active Sky. I can imagine this just adds a lot to the realism. So I think the team has definitely done a great job here. So I hope you got a bit of an impression of what the clouds look like in REX Skyforce 3D. But of course it's not the only type of feature that comes with this product. There are also sky textures. As you can see, I'm flying here at dusk and it looks pretty nice. I think the team did a great job at rendering great textures for all the different cycles during the day, for the dawn, the day and the dusk, and it looks pretty good, as you can see in this example. And when we switch to dawn, we also have a nice sky coloring. So I think the sky coloring looks really realistic. Now this product is only for weather, so it doesn't come with any ground textures or water textures. What you see here is just REX Skyforce 3D with all the default stuff, basically. But you can only select the cloud textures and sky textures, and that's it. It also comes with sound effects for example thunder and rain, which is pretty nice. Yeah, make sure when you're buying this product it's only about weather, but you can still use older REX products, for example REX 4 Texture Direct, if you want to install more airport and water textures. So here I'm flying in the area of St. Maarten again during daytime, and as you can see, it looks pretty nice, especially if you're flying in a slower airplane at higher altitudes. Although you can see that the clouds are kind of facing towards you and turning as you go, the really cauliflower look is really what I like about this product, and I think it looks pretty good. So yeah, as you can see, it just adds a lot more variety to the sky than ever before. So in order to test the weather engine, I'm gonna take off from my home airport, Rotterdam, and as you can see, it's very cloudy right here. And I'm first gonna do a takeoff run with the Boeing 737 with the Active Sky weather add-on, and Skyforce again is running in the background as well to enable the 3D cloud model synchronization. I'm just gonna take this aircraft off without any configuration, just to take a look at the sky. That's what matters in this review, not how I configure the 737. So I'm just gonna take off and take a look. So as you can see from the bottom, the clouds look pretty similar as you can see in the photo. Just a lot of clouds and a thick layer, and we'll just see what it looks like once we break through this cloud layer. So we're now kind of breaking through the cloud layer, and since it's active sky, it tends to stay a little bit hazy once you just pass the cloud layer. But what you will soon see is you can really see the defined structure of the clouds as we kind of fly closer to Amsterdam Schiphol Airport. As you can see, you can really see there's a demarcation where there's just a big front moving from south to west. And if you look at this photo of the current satellite image of the weather conditions above the Netherlands, indeed you can really see this front really being accurately generated by active sky, and this is really active sky at work. But thanks to the REX Skyforce 3D models, I found that this front that is approaching Amsterdam looks much more realistic than ever before. You can really see the rolling clouds that are coming at you, and I really like that feature. So I think it's quite a good combination to have this product with active sky. So we're now taking off from Rotterdam again, now with the REX weather engine, and as you can see, it looks a little bit different. You can kind of see more of the bottom of the cloud structure, but it's a little bit less hazy, but that's okay. It seems that the clouds are kind of at the same height, and as you can see, the clouds look more 3D thanks to the REX 3D model, so that's very nice. And we're now passing through the overcast cloud layer as well, and as you can see, it kind of looks similar, but with the REX weather engine you do not really have this demarked area where you can really see this front approaching as according to the satellite image. And as you can see, this cloud looks a little bit weird. I'm not sure why that is happening, but I found that using active sky produces the best results with a real-time synchronization of Skyforce 3D turned on as well. I think just the active sky weather engine is more accurate. It has a weather radar function that you can use on aircraft like this, the PMDG 737, and the REX weather engine doesn't have that. It just doesn't seem as accurate as the Active Sky weather engine. Nevertheless, I think it's good enough for a basic weather add-on like this, and what really matters about this add-on is really having these 3D cloud structures. So now that we had a look at the visuals that come with REX Skyforce 3D, let me take you through the interface that comes with it, so you know what you can expect when you buy this product and run it for the first time. So this is the main interface that you will face for the first time when you start up REX Skyforce 3D. When you first start it up, you first have to go through the activation process one more time. So you need an internet connection for that, and it will provide you with some early options to quickly set some settings. But if you start it up anytime afterwards, you can here see the dashboard. So here you can go through the different settings, and on the right you have a nice tab with an overview of all your favorite airports. So for example, well, I never fly to LAX, so I just delete that one, and then I can add another airport right here. So for example, let's add Frankfurt, and there we go. We can see immediately the weather at Frankfurt. So quite nice to kind of get an idea of the current condition at the airport that you're going to fly from or to, so you can probably also adjust your team to that. Okay. So here we have all the settings again. Basically these buttons will just take you to the same icons here on the left. So for example, 3D cloud models, we can here select what kind of 3D cloud models we have, and you know, this is different. This is what REX really has been working on, the team, to really give the clouds a 3D feeling. And here you can kind of adjust those settings. So you have the different cloud categories. There are already some basic clouds that are installed right here, but here you have some more 3D model options. So you kind of select here, for example, for the autocumulus clouds, you can kind of select what kind of type of 3D models this should be. Stratus clouds are already in there. Then the cumulus clouds, you can kind of select, okay, I want enhanced overcast cloud bases. So you know, using that 3D model technology, the cloud bases will be much more realistic, so you can really see the bottom of a cloud and the top of the cloud and the difference between them. In other, you know, previous versions of REX, you know, the cloud base does not always look as, you know, realistic as it looks in the real world. So this is definitely of help, and you can also enable roll clouds to really get those, you know, those big fronts of clouds that are approaching sometimes when bad weather is incoming, which looks pretty cool. And then for the cumulonimbus clouds, you know, the thunderstorm clouds, you can also have the different variants here, you know, and based on, you know, which option you select, the clouds will look a little bit different. So, for example, you can have clouds which, you know, portray high precipitation better, or which portray low precipitation better. And you have the visible rain shaft or the wall clouds, you know, all kinds of things you can select. And I would like to refer you to the manual to see exactly what these options do. And then also you can have another 3D models for rain shafts and for tornadoes and funnels. So that's really cool. Although, you know, in practice, you probably never really encounter those kind of weather scenarios anyway. So this is really if you want to explore some kind of tornado situation. Okay, so when you have set all these settings, we have some more options here. So real-time sync mode, what this does, it will kind of sync the 3D cloud model structures that you've selected here and textures, and then it will kind of adjust those models in real time in the sim, which is pretty nice. So you can get a more of a variety of cloud structures, the 3D cloud structures to be specific. Otherwise you kind of get a repetition of the same kind of models all the time. So I would definitely leave this on. And here's the thing about compatibility. You know, you do not have to use the REX weather engine that comes with this product in order to enable this option. This is a standalone option. So this program does three different things basically. It provides textures and 3D models. It comes with a sync mode to sync those 3D models, and it comes with a weather engine. So even if you're using Active Sky as a weather engine, which I am using, you can still leave this mode enabled, and then make sure you also have REX Skyforce running, and then those 3D model cloud structures will be synced in the sim. But You can also use the REX weather engine if you want, but even if you're using the Active Sky weather engine, you can leave this on and also minimize Skyforce, but do not close it in order to sync the 3D models. Okay, and if you select it also, and if you're running this for the first time, I would recommend to click the Install Now button to really install all the models to your liking. All right, so this is a very nice option to have on. All right, and here on the left, yeah, this is kind of the basic texture settings that you also saw in previous REX products. So for the clouds, you can really select some nice textures, and also for the cirrus clouds. Then here you can have an option to import a flight plan, and if you import a flight plan, using third-party flight planners like PFBX, you can, as the description says, you can have a more realistic weather scenario, which is more accurate to your flight. We have some more options right here. We can see the weather at the airports, so you can see the current conditions, and we also have a map function, which looks pretty good in my opinion. As you can see all the precipitation. You can enable different things like winds at various levels. Of course, it's a bit slow because it's a lot of data to load, but that's with any weather add-on, also with Active Sky. So you can kind of have an idea of the conditions and the temperatures, pilot reports, SIGMETs, METARs, for example. So it's a pretty nice function to kind of get an idea of the weather in your surroundings, and you can also follow your aircraft so that it follows your aircraft while you're flying, which is pretty nice. Then here we have the themes. So as I said, you can select the different textures. So we had the 3D cloud textures, but you can also do that for the sky. There's a 10-day cycle option where you can really have a nice cycle that Flytampa uses in order to really simulate dusk and dawn and day very nicely. And also you have the separate texture options which look pretty good. So this is an option, the 10-day cycle. You don't have to use it, but yeah, as you can see, as with the other REX products before, you can select some nice textures right here. Same for the sun. The moon phases look pretty cool, the lightning effects and sounds. So this is really a weather add-on in terms of textures especially. So it doesn't come with any ground textures. If you use REX 4, Texture Direct and Soft Clouds, for example, you can still use that, especially if you're using the the ground textures for airports and the water, things like that. But if you're looking for weather textures only, or if you want to complement previous REX products, this is just for the clouds and the skies and the atmosphere and the moon and the lightning, basically. All right, so keep that in mind. So here we have a theme option, as I showed you, so you can just generate a random theme, and this will just kind of pick some texture sets for you. So the 3D clouds, as you can see, the dawn, the day, and the dusk texture set. The 10-day cycle, if you have that option enabled, we're going to look at that in a minute. And yeah, you can just save this theme, for example, just give it a name, whatever, and then it will give you an option to install. So yeah, let's do that. And depending on the size of textures you've selected, this will take from a couple of seconds until only 1 second. If you're really using low cloud resolutions, then this process should be pretty quick. So when the theme has installed, you can click the OK button, and now you should have everything installed basically, which is pretty nice. There's a PTA option if you're using that to really get a very realistic sky coloring, and if you're using that PTA function. I'm not using it, so I'm gonna ignore it for now. But this PTA stuff will basically allow you to make your simulator look even better. In my opinion, it already looks good the way it is, so I'm not really using it. But as you can see, it can generate very realistic sky settings. So we have here the settings button. First go through the general tab. You just kind of select where Prepar3D is installed. Just some general settings are pretty straightforward. You can have a profile where you can see all your information, updates. You can see your current version, and also whether you want to update manually or just enable auto update, which I would recommend, because especially in the early phase they'll probably release a lot of updates. And one hotfix has already been released, and it's now the 8th of January 2018. So you can kind of get an idea, you know, it was released a couple of days ago, so yeah, it's likely that updates are being released. Here you can select your favorite airports with some information if you want to. So let's see what it does. Let's add Amsterdam. And as you can see, we have some methods right here which you can view. So that's pretty nice. Then you have the weather settings. So here, this is the part where you really want to take a look at if you're using Active Sky as a weather engine. So if you're using Active Sky, and if you like to keep using Active Sky, you have to disable the REX weather engine. So this one is turned off. If you want to use the REX weather engine, you have to turn this on. Okay, and then once you start Flight Sim, I would click the reset button here on the top to make sure the weather gets injected. All right. Now, in my opinion, the REX weather engine is not as good as the Active Sky engine. That's just an honest opinion. You know, it might utilize its own technology of 3D clouds a little bit better, but yeah. If you know, personally, I really like the Active Sky weather engine, and it will work just as fine with this product to use the 3D cloud structures and the real-time syncing that I just showed you. But just make sure that when you're using Active Sky, that the REX weather engine is disabled. So in this case, the weather engine is disabled, but the real-time syncing is still turned on right here. Okay, so those are two different options. So this is the way you want it to have configured when you are using Active Sky. If you're not using Active Sky, just enable it. If you're using the REX weather engine, there's also a function to enable shared cockpit weather injection. Basically, what this would allow you to do is to make sure that your friend that you're flying a shared cockpit mode with has the same weather as you have. Exactly same weather, which is kind of useful, of course. So that's definitely a nice option. It doesn't seem it works yet. I'm not sure what's the deal with that, but maybe it's something they're working on. So that's pretty nice. You can select some in-sim weather settings, whether you want briefings, things like that, whether you want to load your flight plan. Yeah, so that's pretty straightforward options. Then the cloud sync. So yeah, again, the syncing is turned on, so make sure that is turned on if you're using Active Sky. I've turned off the weather engine, so that's fine. And here you can also kind of see what gets synced. So you can sync the rain shafts, the supercells, the tornadoes, and the roll clouds. And I've just enabled all of them, especially the roll clouds kind of look very cool. You will encounter them more often, especially when it's, you know, a storm is approaching, things like that. The top three, especially the tornado and the supercell, you probably won't encounter as much, but you can just leave them enabled. And this just makes sure that, you know, when the weather engine that you're using generates roll clouds, or, you know, indicates that there are roll clouds, then REX will make sure that the right 3D cloud model is selected and its associated texture in order to make that look as realistic as possible. So that's very nice. Cloud settings, this is just basically more settings that you have to worry about when you're using the REX weather engine. If not, you can just kind of leave this. So for example, cloud turbulence, thunderstorm turbulence, the icing in the clouds, and also some other rendering options and lightning effects. Same for the winds. You can adjust the turbulence and the wind shear, things like that. Visibility as well. Kind of the same options that you would see in Active Sky. And depending which simulator you use, some of these options are enabled or disabled. So just make sure you give this a review. But when it comes to these three buttons right here, if you're not using the REX weather engine, then you don't really have to pay attention to this. Textures, you can see and select which textures get installed. I would enable all of them, and if you like the 10 days sky cycle, you can enable that as well. Then the resolution. So this is really the options, especially if you're still using a 32-bit sim, then you really have to adjust this. So you can kind of enable performance optimization, auto-tune optimization. I just leave them disabled. And for the purpose of this video, I've selected the highest settings. But just to, I'm not really sure whether this will really matter in terms of resolution, but I'm just going to select some lower settings for my flights personally, so that you know, I get as high frame rates as possible. That's more important to me than the looks of the cloud. So I'm just gonna lower this a little bit, but you can just adjust it the way you want, of course, and it kind of indicates, you know, what your risk of an out of memory is, which should not be pretty high with which should not be high with prepared version 4 at all. So yeah, you can just adjust these settings based on your computer and how well your computer performs. And then finally, there's some HDR settings. I'm not using that in Prepared. I kind of find it look not realistic, so if you're using this, you can enable it. So I'm using it DirectX L. So I'm using the DirectX 11 without HDR, and then also Sky Dawn Dusk settings without HDR. There we go. So these are kind of settings depending on the simulator you use, you can adjust. So this is kind of a review of the interface of REX Skyforce 3D. I must say it looks pretty good, and yeah, sometimes it takes a little bit time to load, and for some people the interactive map was not working in the beginning, but now it seems to have solved. So yeah, it probably needs a little bit of tweaking here and there. Alright, so yeah, that's all about the interface. So the product also comes with a nice user manual consisting of 85 pages with different things like the installation procedures and the different settings that you can select. So I would definitely give this a review, also a short overview of all the features. For example, the 3D clouds, increase in frame rates because of reduced cloud sprites, new rendering methods basically, and yeah, you know, it looks pretty good, and I would just give this a review if you really want to make sure that you are following the right installation procedure, and also to adjust your settings depending on which simulator you use, and to find out which different settings there are. Okay, so yeah, make sure you give this a review. And at the end here we have all the different settings depending on the simulator you use. So I'm using Prepared version 4, so I'm just going to give this a bit of a review. Indeed, you know, these are especially the settings you want to have correct if you're using the REX weather engine. So yeah, just make sure you give that a good read through. So I'll wrap up this review. I will show you some nice footage that I took above the Alps during different times of day and during different weather conditions. And I might have sounded a little bit skeptical here and there in this video about this product, but I hope you can see from this footage that it's actually quite good. You know, it's pretty nice to have. It's not the revolution that you might expect in weather generation in Prepared or FSX, but you know, in general it looks pretty good, and it does give the, you know, skies a little bit more variety and a lot more 3D look than before. So I'm using Active Sky here as well as the weather engine, and a few things I like to mention for the last part is that when you purchased a previous REX product before, you can get a discount, which is nice. So provided that you buy REX Skyforce 3D at the same vendor, you will be able to get this discount. And in terms of frame rates, you know, it says, the product information says that the frame rate should be improved in overcast conditions because of the new ways the models are you know, generated. In general, I did not have problems with frame rates using this product so far. As you can see, in overcast conditions, you know, the frame rates do tend to go down a little, but that was on highest settings. So if I would use settings like lower resolutions and DXT5 instead of PNP image formats, then you know, it can already improve your frame rates a lot. So it really depends on your system, what your GPU especially can handle. But that's something you can experiment with, and in general I think the performance is just fine, and you know, you get enough bang for your buck basically. So thanks for watching this review here on the AviationPro channel. Make sure you leave your comments or questions below, and make sure you subscribe to the channel for more flight simulation videos and VATSIM videos. I've just created a brand new VATSIM tutorial set, so if you want to fly online with air traffic controllers in a very realistic setting with this new product, then make sure you check out these videos to see how you can become a VATSIM pilot. And also make sure to check out my newest video flying in a Boeing 737 simulator at Innsbruck and other locations. I think you will definitely enjoy that one. So I'd like to thank you for watching, and I will see you next time.